And now your host, Richard Thomas.
Hello, and welcome to It's a Miracle. Once again, we've assembled a wide variety of inspirational true stories for your enjoyment. Stories that prove that there are forces at work in the universe that defy logical explanation. We begin with what should have been a happy event, a family ski trip to the Colorado Rockies. But this family was about to experience a moment of pure terror that could only be overcome by a miracle. Don and Suzanne Templeton of Albuquerque, New Mexico have always been avid skiers. It's a love they've passed down to their children.
Donnie started when he was about 2, and then Adrian started when she was about 3 years old. She and Donnie are different. He's more laid back, and she's more gung-ho.
Adrian is a very determined girl. She's very competitive. It doesn't bother her a bit that she's the only girl on the all-boys hockey team. She's wild. She likes to have fun.
In January 2001, the Templetons joined Adrian's cousins, Miles and Curtis Maynard, and their parents, Mark and Jane, for a weekend on the slopes.
Jane doesn't like to ski, so I decided not to ski that day.
We're gonna go shopping, so you guys be careful. Bye.
So Dawn and Mark took the kids up skiing.
But before they headed up the mountain, Don and Mark instructed the children in what to do if they got separated.
Buddy system means that you ski with your buddy. That way, if somebody
He
gets
said, if we get separated for whatever reason, we'll meet at the bottom of this chair at 11:30. I wanted Adrian to ride up with Mark and I, because she's the littlest, but she wanted to go with Donnie and Curtis and Miles. I said, okay, we'll meet you at the top. And the plan was we were going to ski together. What happened, though, was they were about 7 or 8 chairs ahead of us. Before we got off the chair, we saw them take off. That's where we got separated.
But Don and Mark weren't that concerned. They knew that their children were all good skiers. Even at the ripe old age of 7, little Adrian had been skiing for years.
She goes off ski jumps with us. She does a lot of things other girls won't do.
When they reached the bottom of the run, they decided to get right back on the lift. Adrian was standing next to her cousin Curtis when things began to go wrong.
We got on and she had gotten on kind of funky, I guess. Her butt wasn't fully on the seat or something. And when I looked over to her, she was sliding off, so I grabbed onto Adrian. I was holding onto her as hard as I could. I didn't want to drop her or anything.
Desperate to keep his sister from falling, Donnie grabbed for her other hand.
And then she's like, "Don't let go of me. Pull me up." We're trying to pull her up, but we're sitting down. It's really hard to pull things up. All that equipment's really heavy, and her glove was slipping off. Her glove slipped off then. Curtis was just holding on with all his might.
As 12-year-old Curtis rallied all his strength to hold on, the chairlift continued to climb the mountain.
I was like, I wish my dad and my uncle were here. Here they come.
The two men were on their way back down the hill when Mark spotted something in the distance.
As I looked down the slope below me, I noticed a child dangling from the chair. From the height involved, I could tell that death was a real possibility for the child.
Don came down the slope just after Mark and heard the commotion.
I could hear somebody yelling that there's a little girl in trouble. And I was hoping, God, I just pray that's not Adrian. And then I just started noticing it looked like her and realized it was her.
Suddenly, the chairlift stopped, leaving little Adrian dangling over 40 feet above the ground.
I just felt so helpless. I just felt like I just cost my little girl's life, possibly, because I'm not up there with her.
I was yelling, I can't hold her. Can't hold her any longer. My fingers were getting numb from holding on to her for so long. I couldn't help it. She was too heavy and fell.
I just thought, oh my God. She hit like a rag doll, and her helmet popped off her head and was rolling down the hill. We didn't know how much damage was done to her. I was just praying that all she did was break her leg. If all she did was break her leg, I'd be thankful.
As the ski patrol evaluated Adrian's condition, the boys watched from above.
We weren't sure if she was alive or not. We just saw her hit the ground. I was trying to tell my cousin that she was okay because he was crying, and we were all crying. We were very scared.
But no one was more terrified than Don Templeton as he watched the ski patrol prepare to take his daughter back down the mountain.
To have to be witness to something like that happening to your child and being totally helpless. I mean, I was worried, my God, she could have a neck injury, or we don't know if her leg's broken yet, or if she has a spinal injury.
Adrian was rushed to a nearby hospital where another surprise was waiting. Miraculously, after a fall of 43 feet, she suffered not one single injury.
The x-rays and the CAT scans hadn't shown any problems, and we were able to walk out of there without even a broken leg.
That evening, everyone was safe at home and life was back to normal.
Normal is everything, you know, we don't realize how good it is just to be back to normal. We take so much for granted. Somebody's life, especially your own child. For me, that's everything to me.
What happened that day was a miracle. We could have lost her in an instant. Adrian would be no more. And yet, she walked away without a scratch, without a bruise. It's just amazing.
And what is even more amazing are the circumstances that combined to save her life.
It's truly a miracle that the kids on the chair could have held her like they did. We think that they held on to her for about 5 minutes, about 2 minutes worth of moving lift and another 3 minutes of stopped lift. And it was particularly fortuitous that they did, because she had have landed 50 yards down, she would have been on flat cement like snow. If she had have landed 75 yards up, it would have been on rocks.
I think that that's a miracle, that falling that far, she didn't get hurt. When I fell off the chairlift, God was watching over me. He just laid me down softly.
Adrian Templeton fell a distance of over 4 stories, and yet, as she put it, something laid her down gently. Now that's what we call a miracle. Well, we thought we'd check in on the miracle girl, and so the Templeton family join us now from their home in Albuquerque. Hello, everyone. How y'all doing?
Great.
Great, how are you, Richard?
Oh, well, I'm doing fine, but more importantly, how's Adrian?
She's doing fine.
She's a live wire.
I can see that.
She's back to her normal self, basically, is what she's telling you.
Adrian, you know, your brother's right, and I'm sure everyone watching would like to hear from you. Have you been skiing since your accident?
I still went skiing. I was a little nervous. I was thinking that I would fall off again, and I didn't.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Mom, do you have any advice for other parents with young skiers in the family?
The advice I would give is try to ski with your children. And always put the helmets on your children and make sure they wear them.
Well, that's good advice, and I hope everyone watching follows it. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Richard.